Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Cambridge Community Conversation. I'm Bill Christopher with the Dorchester Chamber of Commerce. Want to thank you guys for joining us tonight and joining the conversation and watching us, or if you're watching us on recording later, to hear from the folks that are doing the work out at the Packing House, which I'm sure everybody's very interested in. Before I do that, though, I do want to thank our sponsors again for this program. Clearly, WHCP for taking the lead on this, using their studios. We're here again tonight. Doing the work there. Cambridge Association of Neighborhoods and the work that they do in terms of spreading information. Dorchester Banner, the Dorchester Star, and of course the Chamber of Commerce in terms of the work we do on your behalf. The goal is to have relevant conversations for you folks. So again, if you have other topics you want us to bring to you, make sure you send those to us so we hear about them. Tonight, throughout the broadcast, you'll have your opportunity to ask questions and send those in to us. So you can actually use the chat feature, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Just use that chat feature and enter the question, and we'll get to those a little later in the program. So tonight, again, I'm very excited to introduce this topic. As many of you guys know, the Phillips Packing Company defined Cambridge in the early 19th or 20th century in terms of what it did, the number of jobs that it brought, what it did in terms of shipping products all over the world, and really was very important to the economy here. And actually, its closing had a devastating effect on the community that lasted for decades. And actually, having this building with all this historic significance brought back online, I think, especially at this time, as Cambridge is going through a renaissance and rebirth and coming back is really important, and having these folks do this. And I think as you get to meet them tonight and hear them talk, you'll have a whole new level of confidence in what's happening there with that project and what it's going to mean to Cambridge and to Dorchester County. I mean, the smokestacks are already repaired. They're iconic. You can see those coming from either direction on Route 50. And so that's a big deal that was already done. So really excited about introducing these folks tonight. And so without further ado, I'm going to do that and introduce these folks. They're going to talk to you about why they chose the Packing House and some other things. So first, I'm going to introduce Bill Struver. He's the CEO and managing partner for Cross Street Partners. And so, Bill, you want to say before I do that, normally you guys see us at all in our separate compartments with our mask off and talking. We do have two people sitting next to each other without mask on, but they are work buddies. They're together all the time, so it's very clear. So for those of you guys that would send us comments that say, why don't they have the mask on? We'll save you the keystrokes. We're being very safe here. Everybody's separated in the studio. We're wearing masks when we cross-pollinate, but Margaret and Bill are together all the time. So with that, again, Bill Struver, the CEO, managing partner, Cross Street Partners. Bill, give us a few words.
Yeah, and we're both vaccinated. We're excited about that. Cool. So we've been working at trying to fix up neighborhoods and cities for 46 years since I got out of college, starting in Baltimore. We're still based in Baltimore. We're best known for bringing new life to falling apart old buildings. We've done 13, 14 million square feet, mainly industrial buildings like the Packing House that have kind of gone on from their original use and generally fallen down in one form or another. And we take great delight in celebrating the history and tradition deeply rooted in these communities and bringing new uses and new energy to these old buildings.
Great. Thanks, Bill. That's great. So next, we're going to introduce Margaret Norfleet-Neff, who is the development partner and for Cross Street Partners and person who's been my primary contact. And so, Margaret, welcome, and please, again, give us a quick introduction and let us know a little bit about you.
All right. Quick introduction. I love working with Cross Street. I came to Cross Street from the food and design world. I have a small company in North Carolina that has a food and design focus, which is why I'm a partner. And on this project. So this project is near and dear to my heart. I'm so excited to be in this radio station again and in Cambridge to share part of the story with you all. I also want to just do a quick intro and thank you to Michael White and Craig Hawkins, who are here tonight, and that the rest of our team, our architect, Ethan Marchant, with Quinn Evans, Molly Pitcher, who's the head of construction, Frank Bitterman, who's our superintendent on site. Just to mention a few of the team that works really hard and from our company together on this project. So as you guys know, it's a team effort. And we hope to have some fun with y'all tonight, tell some fun stories, and give you a peek at the packing house and what's happening so far, and maybe share a few of our ideas of what this project means to us and how much we love Cambridge.
Great. Thanks, Margaret. Truly appreciate that. And then next on the list is Michael White, who's the development manager for Cross Street Partners. Michael?
Good evening. Yeah, thanks for having us on here today. So I actually have been on this project for, I think, 6 years, technically. I started with DHCD. I was Secretary Holt's chief of staff for 4 years. Then I transitioned, was under contract with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, and was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to work with Bill and Margaret on the packing house. Very specifically, it's seeing it from the smokestacks to today has been it's truly a gift, and it's also helped me develop a small connection. I'm not a come here or from here. I'm a visit here, but it's always a pleasure to visit here and learn more about the community and connect. So it's really an honor to be here, and I appreciate the time.
Great. Thanks, Michael. And then last but not least for our intros for tonight, we're going to be introducing Craig. And Craig has his own company that he's been, but I also understand talking with him, he's been working with Cross Street for a while. So Craig Hawkins is the owner of Seahawk CM Services. Craig?
Okay, thanks. I worked with Bill quite a while ago, back around turn of the century, 2000, and really enjoyed it. Helped him up in Rhode Island and also in Baltimore, but moved to the Eastern Shore in the early 2000s and started working with a contractor down here, and then went on my own in 2010 and have been dabbling with a lot of work. I've been doing this for 40 years and several $1 billion worth of construction underway. So we're trying to hope that this one will be one of the better ones and get done and use I'm trying to assemble a local team to work on it. And that's where I started out here after working on the Harriet Tubman job. So it's been 3 or 4 years on this one.
Great. All right, great, Craig. So we got an introduction. I mean, you guys can see we got a pretty strong team here working on this. And they're now going to walk you through a quick PowerPoint of just to kind of give you a feel for what's happening, may answer some of the preemptive answering some of your questions. But again, to remind you, if you have questions, get those in. And after we get to the PowerPoint, we'll actually work on getting some of those answered as well. But if we can, let's bring the PowerPoint up for those guys. And then if you guys just tell us when you want to advance the slides, we'll do that for you. So go ahead and bring that up. So it looks like they're working on getting that PowerPoint. There we go. There we go. All right. So, all right. Margaret, are you going to take the lead on this?
I'll take a quick lead and then, of course, invite everybody to put your fingers up. Got a cool fact. We'd like to share some geeky things as we go along. So this is the rendering of the site. The site will not look exactly like this, but it does give you a nice idea of the connection to Cannery Park, which is just an extraordinary relationship between the building and the original footprint of the Phillips Packing plant, and to think of folks that will be coming to the packing house as well as enjoying the park is a synergy that is rare and is one of the great hallmarks of the project. And the collaboration with the city and county and many others that are involved in Cannery Park. So next slide. I think everybody's seen this shot of the beautiful smokestacks and the beginning of the window restoration and a number of things along Dorchester Avenue. We have another shot of the building. I believe it might be the next slide, Bill. And I'd love to hand it over to Craig to talk a little bit about some of the historic restoration involving the windows and a few other things. So could we see the next slide, please? Be awesome.
No,
this is actually the front of the building. But Craig, why don't you take the next couple slides?
Okay, what we're looking at is the north end of the building. There used to be, at least according to some of the people I've worked with, a hardware store here. Some of the guys that I've talked to remember coming when they first started in the construction industry, going into a hardware store through that, where we are now having a canopy and an entrance. It was a non-historic addition that was in bad need of repair and ended up coming down. There are people who think the rest of the building was in bad need of repair, but we are doing our best to save it. Next slide.
That is another site plan. I can jump in there, and it just locates the building, some of the original sites, and then of course the parking lot, and
right,
and that sort of thing.
Next.
Michael, you want to talk about tenancy a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we're very excited to have some handful of anchor tenants already established. DHCD is going to be moving its offices from right across the street here on Ray Street over to the packing house on the second floor. They're going to be expanding their some of their offerings out of that new location. Also, we have the Blue Oyster Environmental, which I'm sure all of your listeners are familiar with the Shockleys, but we're very excited to have their oyster processing facility there on the first floor, along with wonderful, possibly best on the Eastern Shore oyster bar, which will be absolutely fantastic. And then also we're going to have a commercial kitchen, a shared kitchen space, which I believe we'll talk about later. So, it's a lot of space is already spoken for, but we still have opportunities potentially for some other great spaces, which I also believe we'll talk about coming up.
All right. So this will just add on to tenancy. I'm going to jump in because this is a very exciting component for me particularly, but we really love what shared use kitchen opportunities do for communities, where they drop barriers and provide a physical locations that have top-notch equipment in them for folks to be able to launch a new business in culinary or hospitality or whatever. And this kitchen will be, and this is brand new news to a lot of folks, but the master tenant will be led by Amanda Kidd and Beat the Rush. We're very excited to have them with us on this project and to continue to do what Amanda does so well, and that is to bring people and food together, as well as collaborating with other entities to provide incredible opportunities, learning opportunities, and business opportunities in this space. Our small company, Beta Verde, runs a commercial kitchen in North Carolina, and we've helped support and design and build along with several others across the country. So this is a very special opportunity that we've wanted to have in the packing house for the entire time we've been thinking about this project. It really brings together not only the oysters that'll be across the hall, but so many of the agriculture components of history and bring it forward. So there's lots of ways to get information on that, and so feel free to, if you're a user or interested, jump on our website and take you there. It'll be called the 411 Kitchen.
And I should be totally ashamed of myself. I forgot one other very important tenant, the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, who will be operating the atrium space, which, as I was going on about how wonderful Johnny's Oyster Bar is, the atrium space will be the best space, rentable space on the Eastern Shore. I think there'll be years of weddings and corporate events at that site, and it'll be the best site possibly on the Delmarva Peninsula.
All right, next slide, please. Just a few beauty shots to give you some flavor of how the building will feel, what it will attract. It will have a modern feel to the inside with kind of an industrial slice to it. So again, just to give everybody a little idea of collaborative office space, kitchen space, and of course, every project needs to have a fantastic coffee bar. So, next slide, please. Again, Bill, do you want to speak a little bit to the community catalytic environmental components of the project in terms of where we're located and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so our interest is neighborhoods, not just buildings, and one of the great things about these old historic buildings is the rich history and traditions that they bring with them, even though the buildings themselves may be in dilapidated shape. And our experience in the many cities that we've worked is you could take the same use program that Michael and Margaret just described and put it into a brand new building, and it wouldn't have a fraction of the true impact in the broader community, the catalytic impact in the broader community, than putting those in a building that has such rich history and kind of unique, authentic traditions that grow out of the community. So, from the very beginning, we're excited about the context around the packing house and connecting to downtown and to Ray Street and the waterfront and to the Pine Street neighborhood, even to Route 50, that we think the packing house can be a launch pad for this kind of larger collaborative effort. It's the last of 48 buildings that were originally in the Phillips Packing House back when it was the largest cannery in the world. This last of the Mohicans of the cannery, we think will be a great torchbearer into the future. And one of the things, we've done so many old buildings, of the 13 or 14 million square feet that have been in commercial use. Those that we've converted to residential use don't have a lot of jobs, but commercial use, everyone from Fenway Park that we did with the Boston Red Sox to the old Procter & Gamble plant that's now the Under Armour campus on the Baltimore Harbor, to partnering with Capital Broadcast on the amazing American Tobacco resurrection in downtown Durham. Every one of those commercial buildings has more jobs today in their new use than in their original heyday use. So that Procter & Gamble had 750 people making Ivory soap in the Baltimore Harbor, and a little old Under Armour moved in, Kevin Plank and his brother Scott, when Under Armour was just a small company doing T-shirts. And before you knew it, 2,300 people working at the Under Armour campus. So we've heard a lot of stories about the numbers of people working at Phillips Packing House, as many as 11,000. We are not going to have 11,000 people working in this building of the packing house. But I would not be at all surprised that when we're done and at full throttle, with Johnny and Jordan Shockley, with their oyster processing and oyster bar, with Amanda Kidd on the kitchen, 50, 70 food entrepreneurs there, cranking out, amazing food products, and then going on to grow their businesses. Start adding up all the jobs. We'll have to find a historian that can come up with an accurate number for this building out of the 48. And my bet is there's going to be more jobs in its new use than its old. And the most important thing is the energy that it will bring to the larger community. So this is really all about growing business and jobs in the economy in Cambridge and in Dorchester County.
I just wanted to add two things. We might just end up doing a people count for people who come to visit. We'll pass 11,000 in just a couple of days. But the the other is just the public programming that will be happening. And it just reminds me so much that the success of these projects is very much built in and derived from the talents and the riches in the local areas. So again, the success of this project is completely embedded in the talents of the tenants that are coming in and all of the opportunities that they will help push out and catalyze across this community. So we probably will say something like that several times because it really is true. And it's kind of at the root of our humbleness when we go into these projects, because we get to work with incredible people with incredible dreams. Oh, next slide, maybe. Did you want to add something? Okay. Next slide.
There he comes.
Craig, you're up.
Now we're in construction. So what you're looking at is the atrium space. It's where we'll have the land conservancy space. It'll be a big open area with lots of volume and historic year. And if I look at it closely, it's probably looking across what will be a mix of atrium and office space. So if you're going in to visit DHCD and this in their conference room, you might see something like this. A little cleaned up, a little brighter, with some big fans to move some air around, but it's going to be a wonderful space.
Yeah, Michael talked about the atrium managed by Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, and I think Carol Bean's probably the person right now at ESLC. If you want to have an event at the atrium, Michael said it's going to be the best on the Eastern Shore. I'd like to think that it's going to, the far end's going to open up to Cannery Park, spill out into the park. We had a pop-up party there early on when it was still a derelict roofless building, and the acoustics were fantastic. We had a local guitarist, vocalist playing, and it was great. So I hope everybody in the community gets to enjoy coming and being in an event. Hopefully by this fall, we're going to be coming out of the pandemic and we can be safely back indoors together.
Yes. I just, before we go to the next one, and I'd love for Craig to talk a little bit about the windows and the process there, because it's a multifaceted process and the windows really define this building. But if you're looking at the photographs, particularly on the right-hand side, this sunlight pours into this building on all sides. And the center happens to be the second floor, which is, again, part office space, and what we hope to see is very active and lively shared office space, along with some creative studios and that sort of thing. So again, utilizing what's there and retaining the character, but the light in this building is just simply crazy. I believe the next slide does have a close-up a little bit maybe of the windows, but Craig, I'd love for you to talk about.
Well, let's talk here, because we can see there are multiple types of windows on this job. You know, unlike in a normal construction job where you might have one window company who handles all of it, we've got three, because we have three unique types of windows. There's actually, you look in the big picture in the middle, you're looking out, you see the big ones that overlook the park. Those are all going to be new windows to look old. We call them the replica windows. They were in such bad repair that they need to be replaced. So they're new, and they are going in now. They just started this week installing those, and they'll be looking out. Up in the upper portion, and what we call the monitors, you've got some of the old windows still there, but because of the thermal conditions and trying to get some insulation on this building, those windows will be left, the frames will be left, the glass will go, and behind it will be storefront windows. Big commercial windows like you normally have, but it'll look from inside like the old ones, because you're going to see glass in a frame. But you're going to, in the process, get better insulation and have better comfort inside by having the storefront put on it. And then as Margaret mentioned, the ones on the right side of your screen, you're looking out towards Dorchester Avenue, which are all being restored, the original windows. So those are being restored and carefully worked on. And that process has been going on for several months now, and it probably has several months to go before it's 100%. But we are working on those and getting that way. So you've got a mix of storefront windows. You've got with false original windows behind. You've got the replica windows. You've got the restored windows. And down on the main floor, on the north end of the building, which was also in bad shape, you've got new storefront itself.
Mhm.
So,
Yep. How many panes had to be replaced, Craig, roughly?
several thousand. I don't even want to try to remember. I mean, there's like 400 windows, so
Yep.
all different sizes.
Thanks. All right, next slide. And
Okay.
again, go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, well, on the left side of the screen, you're looking at the windows from Dorchester Avenue. They used to be all boarded up, and they were in bad shape. Matter of fact, these might be some of the ones that were some of the better ones on the Cannery Park side were taken out of that and moved over to replace where we had cement block had filled in the windows over time. So we had 6 or 8 of those that had to be moved and transported and restored. And then on the right side of the picture, you're looking at pictures of light fixtures. 2 different types of light fixtures. The ones in the center sort of the picture are lights that were hanging in that big open atrium space. They are going to be cleaned up and rehung below the fans so they don't get damaged. But we will try to restore it and reuse some of those. The ones all the way on the right, though, are going to be turned into a chandelier over the main stair. So they're going to repurpose those, and you'll find this custom-made chandelier up over the main stair as you walk in the building. So it'll be a real unique little thing. That's some of what we're repurposing. Another thing we're repurposing, and we didn't get pictures in, is at one stage in its life, this building was used as an antique store, and they had lined the walls with pine. So we're taking that pine and we're going to line rows of corridors with pine. And have a lot of plain. Of course, we're repurposing, changing the look. It won't look exactly alike, but it'll be similar, and trying to do it. And that'll also be on the main stair. The rail of the main stair will be made out of pine.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Thanks, Craig. Next slide, please. And here's the great collaboration: green space in the building, with the rails to trails. That I'm not sure that we can properly describe how magical this is going to be. With the patio open space by the packing house, with not only the oyster bar pouring out, another restaurant on the far end, as well as a wonderful outdoor space that is going to be used for performance and music. So we look forward to bikes, people, dogs, puppies, and everything rolling along the rails to trails and the strollway in that section. Next slide, please.
Then we're done.
And we're back.
Yep, I believe that is your last slide. So
That's it.
cool. A lot of great information there in terms of what you just shared. And you probably answered a lot of questions for folks. And I was checking off some of the ones that we had to make sure we don't ask them again, but we may ask you a double. Just a quick reminder again to the audience, if you have questions, use your chat feature to type those in, and we'll do our best to get them answered for you. So a couple questions for you guys. And the first one is very obvious, and I just more out of curiosity, but how has COVID impacted your schedule? What did it do? And has it had a dramatic impact, or normal construction stuff, or is there?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. And construction in most of the states where we're working has remained an essential business. So we've been able to keep construction going. It definitely has an impact in terms of worker safety. And right now, it was that one of our crews is down to half strength because they have several people out with COVID right now. So for a safety,
happens. It's happened throughout. We've had a number of issues with COVID on the job, not only on site, but also with supplies. The cost of goods have skyrocketed from some of these plants that have had to shut down. The delays in getting product have been there, and it impacted us. The ability to meet face to face with other contractors and tradesmen to explain what you're trying to get, because this is a unique little building. The drawings don't do it justice. You really need to see the space and walk through it, but you haven't been able to do that as well with the guidelines that the CDC's put out and other people for social distancing and strain. So COVID has had an impact, and it will continue to have an impact through the job, even as we get better with vaccines and whatnot.
So the big question coming as we hopefully are coming out of the pandemic, we'll see, is what lasting changes there will be in workplace environments, continuing to work from home versus in office. I'm a big believer that in-person interaction is hugely important. And certainly that in-person interaction is what cities are all about. So hopeful that once we get, knock on wood, through the pandemic, that people will be back. I think a positive, if you can talk about a positive with the pandemic, is the influx of resources to help with important community development projects like this in neighborhoods that really need help and need new jobs and need new business and need new investment. That already between the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan that the Congress just passed, major new resources. If the public infrastructure legislation that Biden is talking about happens, there will be tremendous resources available to city, the county, the state, and to businesses. The money that's going to be available for small business lending, and the timing couldn't be better, because one thing the pandemic did on lending, particularly with retail, restaurants, was very hard to finance before the pandemic. During the pandemic, it's been almost impossible to get financing for restaurants and retail. So we're hopeful with this influx of resources and partnering between the cities, county, and state with local banks, that there will be renewed resources to invest in the kind of businesses that will be coming to the Packing House and growing out of Amanda Kidd's 411 Kitchen, I guess they're going to call it, and helping Johnny and Jordan with their oyster aquaculture growth. And I can't not mention the important role that Ken Holt at Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development and the governor, their commitment to Cambridge overall and to this project has been hugely, hugely important. It's not just their office space, but the amazing array of ideas that Ken's bringing to the Packing House, and working with partners to fund. So we're delighted to have that collaboration. And we had a great meeting with the city council, the mayor, a couple weeks ago. So the partnership with the city, the county, I think to some extent, if there's a bright spot coming out of the pandemic, is this renewed collaboration, renewed resources for investing in these kind of high impact projects.
Great. So we did get a question in from Peter that kind of relates to this, and I'm pretty sure the question might not be easy to answer, although you may be easy. He's kind of curious what the overall for completion of the project. You guys gave us some open dates, but do you have a rough estimate as when you think you might have the full project completed at this point?
The project, we look forward to seeing folks walking in by the beginning of October. That doesn't mean that we won't still be working on spaces, but that is our construction goal and the beginning of our tenancy goal. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay. And talking about stimulus, I think it's one of the great things about the packing house, because we're so far along and underway, and Craig and the construction team, design team are going 100 miles an hour. We can talk about, business opportunities, job opportunities, really great retail and public events, this year in 2021, and not, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road. That I think we're poised to be a major player in the renewal of our economy and a renewal of celebrating being able to come together in person once again, making Cambridge this great, wonderful, lively space. So we're excited that we're this far along and ready to go into real action.
Cool. Another quick question for you about Dorchester Avenue. Any plans for changes to it, or changes that you need the city to make to it for you guys in terms of, for access or anything needs to be done to that actual thoroughfare for you that runs in front of the building?
I think that we want to give a shout out to the city because they've certainly been looking at Dorchester Avenue. Community members have. So we certainly inherited an enthusiasm to see Dorchester Avenue improved. We are working with the city, so we're on some of those infrastructure items, and I think you'll be hearing more about it. But one of the things that we're very excited about, the project has worked out with Delmarva to remove the telephone poles from in front of the building. So we can, along with the city, create a sidewalk that will run from Washington to Cedar. Exactly what that time schedule for that is, I'm not 100% sure, but the poles are going down. And it's not a change to Dorchester Avenue, but for those of you who live in Cambridge and know the businesses that are across the street from the packing house, these businesses have worked with us side by side in making these changes, moving the power on the other side and really starting the improvements along Dorchester Avenue. So we could not have asked for a better neighborhood and working partners on the block. So we're looking forward to adding beautiful trees. We're looking forward to making it extremely accessible and tying that pedestrian, bike, car feel between Dorchester and the waterfront and Dorchester and the park.
And in terms of access, we are hoping to work on shared parking. We will have a parking lot where all the gravel and everything's been ad hoc parking for some years, and making that into a great environmentally friendly new parking lot, and sharing it with guests and customers, our tenants at the packing house, with those coming to enjoy the park. So we're looking forward to that lively synergy. And so it's access, a sidewalk in Dorchester, if you can imagine, and parking.
Cool. So you talked about the venue quite a bit, because that's pretty exciting to everybody in terms of what is the square footage for that? I mean, in terms of what size venue for folks to come in? So as they're starting to plan their weddings, how many people do you think you can fit in there for your largest wedding, and even if they spill out into the park? Have you guys thought through any sizes like that?
That is the great advantage of having a master tenant for that space.
Yeah.
Hold on, and ESLC, who's working on the public planning as well as the events, I'm sure we'll be rolling out a lot of information. The space is about 5,000 square feet, and it does have 2 sets of double doors that open out onto the patio and the park. So it should be lively, full of, we haven't talked about it, but music, and art are really important to all of our projects. And that is one of the other things that we fell in love with in terms of in Cambridge and its deep roots in both music and art. So we are looking forward to working with community folks on that, not only for the atrium space, but in other spaces as well. So I just wanted to add to your thoughts.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing that I neglect to say. It is a public space. It is kind of the heart of the packing house. So when events aren't going on, you just reference it as an event space because that's what I called it. But it is a public space. It is the atrium for the packing house, and so the public should come and see how wonderful the space is and really enjoy the light and the windows that we've talked about so much. It's a truly beautiful space once it opens.
Well, if Johnny Chocolate was on here, and he'll laugh at this, but their oyster bar will be pouring out. So you can imagine that inside, the outside, with good food, music, cool people doing cool things, and all of the adjacencies that are nearby, the wonderful neighborhoods, the swimming pool, just so many connections. That,
in terms of, don't the restaurants and cafe kind of back into the event space too? And we'll be able to use it when it's not.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So for events, it will be closed off and private, but as Michael said, when there aren't events, it will be very much a center hub of activity,
which is most of the time.
Which will be most of the time, and for the oysters, I think you'll be able to see into at least part of Johnny and Jordan's oyster processing. They're going to have this unbelievable machine that I'm sure they'd love to talk about at the right time, and you'll be able to see a little bit into the kitchen in the kitchen. And
yes, absolutely. I think Bill's sharing that this project and other projects, we really use a lot of glass, so that not only if you're working there but when you're visiting there, you can see what is happening and connect to it. In a different kind of way. So you're not just driving by the building and wondering what's happening.
Will you be able to? So DHCD has their kind of community meeting spaces on a mezzanine or second floor built out over next to the atrium. Will you be able to look up into the community meeting spaces and from there down into the atrium?
The two, that particular space is kind of like a beautiful glass box. There's a corresponding glass box on the other side, near the kind of what we call the old lab space. You will be able to see things happening in there, but the public won't be able to see into it. It's actually more of a beautiful advantage point for anybody who's having a meeting in there or anything like that to kind of be in a place where they feel a lot of activity. They'll actually be able to see into the restaurants as well, which will be 2-story volumes.
So a big part of Ken Holt's vision is to make this a community resource and gathering place.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cool. Really cool. So you touched on this already. So, and I said I wasn't going to ask the same question, but you hit it a couple times and just want to bring it back to focus. So, and I know you guys are heavily involved in this because I've been involved in some of the conversations with the other projects that are underway, like waterfront development, the new healthcare facility. Obviously, Cannery Park is there. How do you see this integrating with those other projects? And from a timing perspective, does that give you pause or excitement in terms of that there's this many projects kind of hitting all at the same time?
Yeah, so connectivity is going to be really big in terms of how to link the packing house, the Cannery Park, to the new medical campus for 50 Ray Street downtown and the waterfront. And from the big picture, we're believers that more is more when it comes to the city of Cambridge and cities in general, is that increased density of people, activity, amenities, great restaurants, businesses growing and hiring people, the more the merrier. So we think the vision that the city and county and the state have for these different nodes of activity, growth areas, are very synergistic and complementary. So we're not looking at this as one competing against the other. The packing house can be very different, unique. It's an amazing, glorious old building with a great history. And I think waterfront's always been a big part of Cambridge and Dorchester. So we're just delighted about how they work together. And certainly when you have folks like the Shockleys with their great tradition as watermen, Hoopers Island, I hope I said it right, Hoopers Island, being at the packing house and being part of this immense tradition around the Chesapeake Bay and the waterfront. I think it all hangs together.
Cool. That's kind of what we were hoping you were saying, and kind of is what we're expecting, that these projects are all really coming together at a perfect time. We believe that we're on the cusp of some big things happening here. We did a couple questions in while we were talking there. So the first one asked from Tracy. Tracy, and you talked about a little bit about shared office space, but is there still availability to do independent office rentals in addition to or leasing?
Yeah, and one thing is going to be amazing office space, as Margaret described. I mean, it's got a ton of light. It's really going to be, I think, one of the coolest office spaces on the Eastern Shore. And even the shared office space will have private offices. So, we'd be delighted to talk to folks that would like to have their business or their nonprofit or organization at the packing house, and come soon, because we're hoping to fill it up.
Cool. And then the other question that came in was another question from Peter Doyle. And this is probably directed to Craig, but if there's anybody interested in employment during construction, how would they learn about how to get on with you guys to help out with the construction if you need bodies for that?
Well, there's two aspects there: direct employment with Cross Street, or whether or not you're working with some of our subcontractors. And we're encouraging all our subcontractors to hire locally as well. But we've got a superintendent on site every day, and as he needs people, he's probably the best person to contact directly. But most of our work is through subcontractors, and those will work, and they will direct them. If someone stops by the site and asks, "Hey, I'm an electrician, I'd like to know who," will tell me Electric is who's going to be there, or Hancock and Sons, the mechanical out of Salisbury, Top Notch, the drywall contractor. So you've got subs that'll be working and needing staff. And you can just come by the site.
We have reached out to UMES about their construction management program, and we'd love to have a more active collaboration in other cities. In Baltimore, for example, we're joined tightly with Associated Builder Contractors, where they move all their building trades apprenticeship programs into their new construction academy at one of our buildings in East Baltimore. We're big believers about the career opportunities in construction, in the building trades. I'm a master electrician myself. So we're, as Craig said, all eager, with our subcontractors to try to create pathways. And looking into the future, we'd love to look at more formalized training support structures.
Great. So have you guys found anything unique or different that you weren't expecting when you got into the building? I mean, again, every project's different. You talked about some really cool, like the Under Armour spot is really cool, by the way. I mean, I knew you guys did it, but didn't until you said it tonight. That's a really amazing facility. I've been there several times in terms of you did there. But comparing this to other facilities, is there anything that you found that you think is unique about it that would be a selling feature that we should be calling out, or something you found that after you got into it you weren't expecting that was more problematic, or that is really cool about the building?
Well, I think that the basic bones of the building, as we got in, when we first started, it was very dark and dreary, drop ceilings falling down, and the windows were all blocked up, and it was not a energizing experience. And as the building was cleared out, the demo done, and these windows being restored on Dorchester, and the new windows going in on the park side, I think that was, to me, a revelation. Say, oh my God, this is going to be like gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that was early on a delightful surprise was we have event spaces in many of our projects in different cities. We think that's a very important part of the community program and partnering with the broader community. And it was a delight when we did that pop-up and had a guitarist come in and singing some songs. And we said, oh my God, this is going to be like unbelievable romantic place for an event. So I hope the acoustics are as good when we're done as the acoustics were when the place was a wreck. So hopefully we haven't made it worse.
I think it might be one of the most skeletal by the time we ended up taking the building up. I think it's probably the one building that we've taken apart the most.
Mm-hmm.
I laugh and think there's just nothing that hasn't had fresh air on it. There's not a single inch that hasn't been embraced by fresh air. So as it closes up, it ought to be stunning. No mold, no anything. But I think that's probably one of the biggest surprises.
And then another question came up in terms of the smokestacks. Why did you guys feel that those were so important to save? And what was the rationale in terms of that from your perspective as to the importance of those stacks?
Well, one thing is that MHT,
Who's MHT?
Maryland Historic that they believe highly that they are very important to the project. But we agree. And the 90 foot of double stacks is it's an icon that goes back to the turn of the century. And it's a location and a placement, physicality that you can't replace, and you just embrace. So taking the stacks have nothing to do with the building functionally anymore, but their function was totally the beginning of powering up.
And as you said, Bill, I mean, they're such iconic features. That's the first thing you see as you come over the bridge, which you couldn't see when we were repairing them. We had to tear down the top part of the stacks, but it was great seeing them go back up. You could see them again, and that we tell everybody coming down Route 50 from wherever, we'll look for the place for the two stacks. And so my hope is we can find room in our budget before we're done to do some amazing lighting of the stacks. That will be dramatic. I've always kind of dreamed of where you could have like a smoke machine, and if the Orioles win the World Series, we could have orange smoke, and the Ravens win the Super Bowl, we could have purple smoke. And anyway, that's a dream.
We'll get that assigned to somebody. So
yeah. And those teams are up for discussion.
So yeah, so they're iconic building. I mean, it's an iconic building. The whole the place. I literally grew up a block from there. My mother still lives a block from there, so I see her as I drive by it. And so we played in those buildings when we were younger, and they weren't supposed to be inside them. But so it's great to see them come back online.
It's amazing they didn't fall down. I mean, we've probably done 50 stacks of that nature in different industrial buildings, and these were, once we had an engineer really look at them, they were about the ricketiest of all those stacks. And they said, well, if you get a 90-mile-an-hour wind, they're going to be in Dorchester Avenue. And I remember, worrying about weather reports and say, oh my God, what's going to happen? And luckily we were able to find some amazing smokestack people at structural group that were able to figure out how to keep them from falling down. And there was a moment, I don't know if we ever chronicled it, the bottom of one of the stacks was just gone. And so this guy's down there, pulling out the bricks and this thing overhead and replacing bit by bit, and didn't fall down.
Yeah, we would go by and count the number of bricks that had fallen. That was just every time we come by. But anyway.
Cool. So again, last big question for you guys to think about, and again to get this out to the folks that are watching now and those that are going to watch the recording. What else do you need from the community to make this a success? I mean, what's your ask of the local community, whether it's the residents or the businesses or the local legislature? What do you guys need?
Golly, it's a good question. We're the recipient of quite a bit. We continue to look forward to working with the city and the county going forward. But to the residents, to the businesses, to the people who live in this, come see us, bring us your ideas. Think about, dream with us. And if you're interested in being part of the project in any way, please reach out. This is as much your project as it is our project. And we look forward to bringing all that together. So
So if the community's
Mhm.
excited, we still have room, and we'd love to have local entrepreneurs, businesses, nonprofits, community organizations that want to have meetings there, events there, or have their place there. We'd love it. We'd love, as Margaret said, ideas and support. There's a lot of work left to be done in terms of funding and completion of the park and the rails to trails, which could be amazing as a ways to go. Ideas with the community, how we can better connect with the neighborhoods around us, all those kind of things. I think the city would love to hear, the county would love to hear, we'd love to hear, because we want this to be the community's project.
Great. Craig or Michael, anything else to contribute in that you guys need?
On the construction side, there are still a few trades we have not awarded out. We're still looking for some finished trades and tile and wood flooring and lines. And as we add tenants and their designs come on, there will be other work. So if anybody has a business out there that wants to get involved, stop by the site or look on our website.
Cool, great. Michael, how about from you? Looks like we're gonna give you final word on this one tonight.
Yeah, no, the tenants. I mean, we have our anchor tenants kind of established, and that's great. But I would hate for any of your listeners to look back and say, "I wish I would have gotten my space at the packing house."
Mm-hmm.
You still have opportunities, so we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we thought it would have been real exciting. We just got moved into a new space, so we won't be coming. But I tell you, looking at a lot, we were trying to figure out how we could afford to move over there, because it would have been a really cool space to have as an office. I mean, think about the park being there. You said the rails trails being outside. The building itself is just going to be gorgeous. And from looking at it, in terms of what you guys are doing to it and getting it back into an operational state, it's going to be a really cool place to be. We had a meeting at the Hyatt earlier, and it turned to this, and the discussion we had with everybody very excited about what that spot would be like to be, the head of a rail trail. Think about that, starting off point, and whether you have coffee shops or oysters or beer or whatever you have inside, to be able to then either stop or start and come back there. It's gonna be pretty exciting as a space. Overall.
Have your coffee before your bike ride and your beer after your bike ride.
Or skip the bike ride.
You just get the bike ride, and get there. So, all right. Well, again, I know you guys are all busy. You got lots of things going on with this, and this isn't the only project you guys all have as well. So we truly appreciate you taking out of your time out of your schedule to come out tonight. Again, if folks need to contact you, they can go to the Cross Street Partners website. There's also a website for the Packing House. So it's the Packing House website. You can go search for that. You can find all that information on the Chamber website. If you need contact information, feel free to reach out to the Chamber. We can get you contact info as well for these folks if you need to contact anybody that's listening. So again, Bill, Margaret, Michael, Craig, thank you guys very much for joining us tonight. And for you folks that are out there watching us, we got several upcoming events that are part of the Cambridge Communication and Cambridge Community Conversation. We got several others that are spinoffs. Just so you guys know, Midshore Community Conversation is going to be happening. So on April 14th at noon, we're going to have former Mayor Victoria Jackson Stanley and former City Commissioner Robbie Hanson will be here to actually talk about their 12 years in office. They actually served 3 terms together, and we talk about what happened during that 12 years. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. We encourage you to join that on the 14th. On April 21st at 6 p.m., we're going to start the first of a 3-part series that is being run by the Dorchester County, Maryland Criminal Intelligence Network Coalition. Very long name, but basically it represents all of law enforcement throughout the county and what they're doing together. And the first event on the 21st will be talking about crime statistics in the county and what's happening there and what the law enforcement's doing about that and how they're working together on those. And then there'll be 2 follow-up sessions for that later in May in terms of doing that. And we're in the process of finalizing the date for the Cambridge Waterfront Development, Inc. to come back again to present the results of that survey that they did, the public survey. They did one for the city council recently, but they're going to come here and do one for us, and then we'll give a quote if you guys, you can kind of get see that survey and get to ask some questions directly of the consulting firm that did that. So join us for that event. And then the mayor and commissioners, they were on today. If you missed it, you can go back and watch the recording. Those are very, very helpful presentations. The new mayor, Andrew Bradshaw, and the 5 city commissioners have agreed that they'll come in pairs and actually do conversations to answer questions about what's currently happening in the city. And if you missed today's conversation, I encourage you to go out and watch that recording on WHCP's website. Very informative in terms of what they're doing there. So you can find all these sessions on the chamber website. You can find them all on WHCP's website to go look for those and watch them. We encourage you to share those with other viewers and get people involved. And again, if you have a topic you want us to cover, please let us know. And with that, thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a pleasant evening. Thank you.